can you promote for the victims to come forward and seek help?
It's going to be challenging, because we're talking about norms here. It is difficult to stop people from telling stories. If it is unwanted, then you should tell them no. And if they are doing it, then you need to tell them you need to face the consequences. Never forget, if it happens to you, act fast.
Hello everyone, I'm Atira Minuddin and you're tuning in to another episode of Wacana podcast. And today we are talking about the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act 2022. And as you know, it was passed by the Dewan Negara on 11 August 2022, and just in March, several provisions of the Act came into effect, and it is anticipated that the rest of the Act will come into effect in stages. But although this is a positive development to be lauded, and considering that it is the first to many steps in having an anti-sexual harassment legislation in Malaysia to increase prevention and awareness to the society, to the people, but we also want to know if the Act will be enforced fully, even to employers, employees, everyone who are affected, the victims, maybe the predators, how it could impact those people. So today we have Women, Family and Community Development Ministry Deputy Secretary General, Mr. Chua Choon Hwa.
Yes.
Okay, I said that correctly, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
How are you, Mr. Chua?
Hey, well, thank you very much. Yep.
All right, thank you so much for being here. So we just want to talk about the Act, because this is clearly a step forward for everyone, not just for women, for men, maybe future generations as well. But we want to talk about focusing on maybe the workplace, how some cases are ridiculed by social norms and public acceptance, especially when involving situations beyond the stereotypical victims and perpetrators. So, but first and foremost, we want to know why is the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act 2022 is very important to Malaysia.
Okay, Atira. First of all, it is important because sexual harassment is not something new for Malaysia. Yeah, I think in the whole process we already mentioned before that in the Penal Code, in the Empowerment Act, and even in some of the circulars, even in MCMC, we already mentioned about all this. Yeah, so why this particular anti-sexual harassment is important? Because even though we have all the acts in place and circular in place, and yet why cases are still there and justice are not being made, kind of thing, right? When people have cases, for instance, about 5-6 years back in Sungai Buloh, there's this particular case where a superior taking advantage of all these young officers, and he has been reported not just once, and yet action was not being taken. Yeah, so this particular act that we're talking about, Anti-Sexual Harassment Act that we're talking about, would, we hope, change the situation. Yeah, we are now giving that so-called rights to the victim itself. It's a very victim-centric kind of act. Yeah, so nowadays, when you think that you are the victim, you can take the initiative. You able to bring up to tribunal, you can get your justice. Rather than like I mentioned just now, in the future we might have employer-employee relationship where employer, they might reluctant for whatever reason.
They have that fear.
Yes. Yep. So with this act, things is going to change, and I think there's 3 things that I need to mention, which we have been talk about that for quite some time now. Okay, among others is the whole process under this act is going to be simple, much simpler in the future.
What do you mean by simple?
Okay, so we're talking about last time we need to go to the court, okay, and then we are talking about you need to gather all this information, and we are talking about the basis is beyond reasonable doubt, which is going to be very costly. And it's going to be time consuming. But with tribunal, with this act, it's going to be much simpler, because first thing is going to be very economic.
Okay.
The fees is going to be very affordable. Yeah, we have not fixed that as yet. The government is going to announce that. But until we set up the tribunal, then we will inform stage by stage kind of thing. Yeah. But let me assure that it's going to be very affordable. Yeah. So first thing. Second thing, you don't need to hire a solicitor anymore.
Oh, why is that?
Because in the tribunal, it's just between the perpetrator or the we call it it's the perpetrator and the victims. Yeah, so it's only that two. Unless in some certain circumstances where it involve a person with disabilities or children, then they might bring along their aides to assist them, kind of thing, because they are not mature enough or nobody can understand them. And in fact, in the act itself, in some certain very highly technical cases, they might request the tribunal to grant them to bring along their lawyers or whichever. Yeah. So that's the part that I said it's going to be, and it's going to be fast as well. Through this act, a case is supposed to be resolved within 60 days from day one they reported. Yeah. So it's going to be fast, simple, and then it's going to be economic.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear for the victims especially. But then how can you promote for the victims to come forward and seek help? Because I understand there are some cases that happen multiple times. The minute that they report it, they're said they're already been harassed, for example, 5 or 6 times. Because they're scared to lose their job maybe, to put their life on jeopardy. So how can you promote?
Yeah, that is going to be challenging. Yeah, because we're talking about norms here.
Yes.
We're talking about if we are used to some certain setting. Yeah, so some people take advantage, and if our culture is we tolerated that, then how to change that kind of behavior? Yeah, so that comes the part that recently we have just launched this. It was being passed by the government last year. Yeah, but it's only this year, May 8th. Yeah, our Prime Minister has just launched the guidelines on how to prevent this. Yeah, so it's end of March as well that we have enforced a few sections, which now we are doing this advocacy part to educate the general public. We need to make them understood what is sexual harassment. Yeah, for the doer and for the victims. Yeah, we are talking about both. Yeah, and we are not only talking about female here. Female are the majority, but male children
are also victims.
Yes, they are also victims. Yeah, so we are talking about, we need to aware about this, and that is the part that how to make them come forward.
Yes.
We want them to understand first, and in the law itself, we have another provisions that the session, the tribunal session, is going to be a closed session.
I see.
So all these are not supposed to go to the public. It's supposed to be interpersonal between the victim and the perpetrator's business, and everything is a closed session.
So victims would feel much safer to report.
We'll hope for that. Yeah, but the problem is it is difficult to stop people from telling stories. Right. So even if, let's say, it's a closed session, but beyond the session, it is not easy for us to control that part. But again, we have some other law in place. It is supposed to be a closed law session, and if anybody reveal any details and it bring to another level of argument, then some other law will take place.
I see. And now that the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act is quite a broad act, right? And also now stalking is also considered a crime. And could you maybe address, like, why is it so vital to include stalking? Because some people don't realize that they are stalking other people even on social media. Could you address that?
I would say stalking and sexual harassment is quite different.
Yes.
Stalking might lead to other more severe crimes, including sexual harassment as well. But I personally won't equate stalking with sexual harassment in one category, kind of thing. Yeah, but yes, but I think the best part is again, I think it's just about 2 weeks ago. The government has just passed. The stalking. They amended the this uh, penal code and a criminal procedure code, to criminalize stalking.
Yes.
And Ministry of Women and Family Community Development, we are very supportive of this move. I think, as I said, if stalking would lead to other bad things, we definitely need to stop this. We need to criminalize this.
Okay, that's good. Thank you so much for explaining that. Going back to the sexual harassment, we have seen that on social media, many of them also take sexual harassment very lightly, and some would say someone getting sexually harassed it's just a joke. It's nothing. They'll probably just bergurau. Boys will be boys. There are people who still use that term, and this has become a generalized generational cycle. So what must be done to end this belief to help the victim?
Yep. Again, I'll go back to what I mentioned just now. Currently, we have just enforced a few sections in this act itself. And this is the advocacy part. We need to educate our people. Yes. In our society, we might have used to some certain practices. Maybe a tap on the shoulder, to put your hand on the shoulder, and we think it's okay about it. And now we need to educate. It might be okay, but it all depends on whether. That's why in the act itself we define as if it is if the victims think that it's unwanted, and that is one of the keywords in the act itself. If it is unwanted, then I used to tell them no. And if they are doing it, then we need to tell them you need to face the consequences.
What if they're afraid to say no, the victim?
Well, let me put it this way. Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development, we are trying our best to have all these alternative forum for the general public to get to make their rights real kind of thing. And we have set up the forum. We have had this new law so that you can fight for your rights. And if general public still refuse to report the case, there's nothing much we can do actually. But as I mentioned, we need to educate more. Including, I think, for me, simple things like sex education. Right.
I agree 100%.
In the new modern world that we're living in,
the fact that they have access to so many things on the internet, they need the sex education.
Exactly. There's no any other way, any excuses we can give for not teaching our children about sex.
I understand. That's a whole different topic, but it is equally important because I understand it also could lead to sexual harassment because they don't fully understand or comprehend the consequences, right? And as you said, the victims are not only women, just the majority are women, but children, men, boys, they're also, they can be victims, and some people don't realize that women also can be the predator. Maybe we don't see it as much, and maybe we also hear that male victims doesn't come forward because they're ashamed. It's not macho. It hurts their ego. So what happens when it's women?
I think this is definitely one obstacle that we need to. It is actually something that hinders us. This is our value system. So we always think that women, they won't do, or boys. I mean, don't tell me that you're being harassed, right? But in reality, it happens, and that is the part that we need to stress more in the future. That don't be afraid of informing the authority about what has happened to you when you think that it's not right. That's why, again, you get back to this education part. Okay, you need to know that nobody is supposed to do this to me, and according to the government, according to this law, this is sexual harassment, and I can take action based on this particular act. So this is the part that and we need to inform the public, and the public we need to familiarize with some new ways in the system, kind of thing, that they should realize that regardless who you are, right, you can,
what gender you are, it doesn't matter.
Exactly, right. And even including how could, let's say, a senior citizen do that? You never know.
Yeah.
Right? And not just because they are senior citizen, or because, for another case, not just because they are persons with disabilities,
Yeah.
then you think that it's not going to happen. Yeah, but I think that would lead to another issues.
Yeah.
How to gather evidence.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the difficult part.
Yeah.
That's why, among other things, is we need to train them how to, let's say, whenever it happens, then if you are not comfortable, you should say it out loud, first thing. And then second thing, you need to stop it.
Yeah.
And you need to say no to them.
Yeah.
And you need to tell them what is going to happen next.
Yeah.
And you need to get all these things recorded, and you need to tell somebody as well. And all these things are supposed to be recorded so that if in the future, when you need to go to the tribunal, and this is the thing that you need to table to the tribunal.
And could you share with us, like, since there are so many different type of cases, men getting harassed by women, women getting harassed by men, there are also men getting harassed by men and women getting harassed by women. Because I've seen, even I have some people that I know that got harassed by a woman, and she's a girl, and she's also get harassed by another female, and it's not a common case that you would hear.
Yes.
It's not something that would be on the news. You don't really see it. So could you share? It happens, but they don't really they aren't exposed to it. So could you share with us, like, the statistic of sexual harassment or assault cases that happen in Malaysia in terms of gender? Because I believe that the people maybe don't fully understand that what is going on in society.
Yes, I can share some of the statistic, but the statistic is not so encouraging.
Okay.
And I suppose that is the reason. It is the reason why we think we need to have this new law in Malaysia. For the figure that we have, for sexual harassment, we have 3,008 cases in 2019, 378 cases in 2020, and 506 cases in 2021. I would say that is relatively low. From what we heard daily, I think this is very low. And for 2021's figure, 506 cases. Out of these 506 cases, 88% actually the victims is female.
How many percent?
88%.
88%.
So it means relatively male or even children, the percentage is relatively low in that sense. And if we have the breakdown from workplace, which is very odd. I have here with me 4 years statistic. It's not more than 20 every year.
Okay.
And we are talking about the whole total workforce out there.
I don't feel like that's true.
Right. And not more than 20 cases a year. And for public sector, it's even lower. Every year, it's actually less than 5 cases.
Every year?
Yes.
Throughout the year?
Exactly. And we are talking about, in the whole government, we have about 1.6 million.
Yes.
We are all very good men and women, I think.
Yes.
We don't do sexual harassment if, according to this
like less
statistic.
than 5, I'm pretty sure you guys are doing great, right?
The statistic seems to suggest that, but I think that's the problem. Okay, so that's why I asked my officer to get some of the statistics for me. For gender-based violence, in 2019 is 3,117 cases. In 2021 is 2,703 cases. So we are talking about in average is about 2007, 2008 cases a year. And that's gender-based violence.
Okay.
And when we talk about violence, those are reported to cases brought to the court kind of thing, and it's in the thousands. And in that sense, sexual harassment is a lower form of a crime kind of thing. The number are supposed to be much larger. And what I would want to say is this statistic doesn't seem to be
accurate.
Yes. It doesn't reflect the true reality in the society.
So would you say the biggest obstacle that not only your ministry, just the people in general, the biggest obstacle that you have to overcome is to encourage people to report? Because I'm pretty sure these numbers are relatively low, and it excludes people that didn't report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest hurdle is about sex.
I see. Why is
Malaysian, we don't talk about sex.
that? Okay.
Yeah, sexual harassment is a people don't feel comfortable to talk about it. When you want to say that I'm a victim, then you say, victim how?
Are you
Where?
sure?
Yeah. So this is all question that is very embarrassing for Malaysian
Yeah.
to talk about. And as long as we have all those kind of resistance, we are going to have problem. Yeah. But again, this tribunal through this Anti-Sexual Harassment Act that we had, this is an alternative that we are providing to the people. Yeah, as I mentioned, if it is closed door and it is not as costly and it's going to be simpler, let's hope that. You see, I'll imagine victims they are always very annoyed when somebody did that to them.
Yeah.
They want to say it, but there's no right forum for them to
Yeah.
to say it
And
out
they don't
loud.
feel encouraged to
Exactly.
come forward.
Yes.
And I'm glad that there are forums that are prepared for those victims now. And as you mentioned, the numbers just now was from some workplace, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
workplace in public sector and private sector and in some police data as well.
Okay. And so do you think workplace relationships and marriage are appropriate? Because especially when it involves a superior and subordinate, where should anti-sexual harassment come into this? Because there are some cases that I've seen that when they report, the HR doesn't want to take any action because it's the boss, it's the owner of the company. You never know. So what do you think about this?
Atira, if we're talking about relationship in the organizations, we don't think it is an issue. Yeah, because sexual harassment can happen to anybody in anywhere, in any situation. Yeah, so even in an organizations, we are not talking about only bosses and subordinates. We are talking about within
Colleagues. Right?
We are talking about maybe with the cleaners or even with client.
Yeah.
You never know. So, I mean, to limit it to, let's say, because of that, to limit the so-called relationship between colleagues, I think is rather difficult. Yeah, and knowing human being, why people get together, sometimes the proximity is one of the main contributor. Is because they are close, they get to know each other, they like each other, then therefore you form the relationship.
Yeah.
Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development, our concern is low fertility rate. If we stop all these things, then it's going to even get worse. Yeah,
It's going to get
have
lower.
Exactly.
I have to do another podcast on that if that happens. So what do you think the companies should do given that there's an act for this now? How can maybe they can contribute to help enforcing it?
We have, as I mentioned, we have just launched the guideline
Yeah.
on sexual harassment prevention. Yeah, so this is one of the
Okay.
promotion item that we now publish in the public. Yeah, and we even have you can go to our JPW Jabatan Pembangunan Wanita's website, and soon our ministry's website we will publish this guideline itself. Yeah, and why do we prepare this guideline? Because we hope people out there, organizations, that they're in line with us,
Yeah.
where they support us. Yeah, and I think they better support us because having, as I mentioned just now, most of the victims are female. Not having women in your organization, you lose out 50% of your potential. Yeah, so if you have female officers,
Yeah.
you might want to have that in place. This guideline itself is helping all these organizations to manage this sexual harassment procedures. Yeah, everything is there. We even tell about the myths and the facts, and we have even if in the transportation industry, in the education industry, how should we? What is the kind of action that we need to take? Yeah, so everything is we're trying to guide step by step kind of thing, and let's hope with all these kind of guidelines, it would help.
Okay, that's good to hear because you're just making people feeling even more safe to go out, even to going to work. Because I personally have experience, even at workplace, people calling sayang, dear, and other romantically linked words. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only female that have experienced that in a workplace, because those words have been agreed to be linked to sexual harassment. And some say this is taking it too far because it's just sayang. It doesn't mean anything. But verbal harassment is real. And not only that, gestures and facial expressions as well. So why should words and expressions should not be simply be thrown around?
Yeah. For that, right, Atira, I think we need to go back to the definition of the what is sexual harassment again. Yeah. I think in the act we make it very clear. It need to be unwanted. Yeah. So if let's say sayang, I cannot imagine if my wife call me sayang, definitely it shouldn't be a sexual harassment. Okay. But some actually question that as well.
Yes.
But I think it's taking a bit too far. Okay. But let's say even for me being a male, I have female bosses call me sayang as well.
Yeah.
Again, is it unwanted? Do you think offended because of that? Right, that is very important. I think this is all the case. And if you feel offended, it is our responsibility to
Address
say it out loud that please don't do that. I don't like that. Yeah, the perpetrator need to be informed that no, you don't do that. I don't like that. And if they still persist, then you need to tell them that what do we have to prevent all these things. And you know the fine is considered quite a big sum.
Okay.
250,000, right? That is the maximum fine.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think maybe you shouldn't try all this.
Okay. Just do not even take one step to do
Exactly.
this horrendous action.
Our campaign, we are not only talking about the victims, even though it's victim centric. Victims can get their so-called some certain payout kind of thing. But the most important thing, we are telling the perpetrator as well, don't do that. If you do that, there's some certain consequences.
So is there some sort of SOPs for companies to do?
Garis panduan.
Just garis panduan,
Yes.
just the guidelines.
Yeah, the guideline is there. But as I said, this is just the first phase. In the second phase, we are going to have this tribunal, and I think would have a clearer in the future. Yeah, and if once we have some certain pilot cases, then it make people even clearer of what can be done.
I see. So what happens for maybe some individuals who wants to investigate the cases themselves, and how to differentiate an independent body and biased staff? Like, how can you address that?
Tribunal is such that it is like a clearinghouse kind of thing, right? Those are the party that without any interest. Yeah, and that's why, as I mentioned just now, even in the employment setting, sometimes it's a bit because it is not just about person A with person B, but there's another relationship which is employer-employee kind of a relationship, and sometimes it involves the so-called corporate image as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of consideration. But in the tribunal setting, they don't have all those kind of relationship. It's just somebody that is being trained in this particular field, gender sensitized, and then we are looking at the facts of both parties, and they make a judgment. For individual that they think that they want to do their investigation or whichever, again, it is not easy. If it is that simple, I suppose maybe we need to come up with this act anymore,
Yes.
right? That means because, as I mentioned just now, sexual harassment is nothing really new for Malaysia.
Yeah.
We already had it in our legislation. But why doesn't really it works? Because of this nature of this beyond
Yes,
reasonable
people don't
doubt.
want to talk about it.
Exactly.
They don't want to discuss,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So you have to encourage people to come forward to talk about it, set up forums and all that.
Yep. And I'll imagine that in the near future, in all this public sphere, we have all those promotion materials telling people that whoever that do this, you're going to suffer the consequences. So in the future, I'll imagine if you're in the bus and if anybody do something that you feel is uncomfortable, you can shout to them that, hello.
This is what happened to you.
Exactly.
You're gonna get fined. You're gonna get illegal action.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you think this would actually, put fear in those who are harassing other people?
We are sending a message out to all these people.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing that you need to be materialized first.
Yeah.
We need to have the tribunal. We need to have cases that come in. We need to have cases to show to people that it works.
Okay.
Yeah. Then with that, I think you send very clear signal to whoever that they think they want to try their luck, or whoever that all the while has been victims, that they know that now they can claim their rights.
Okay, so Mr. Chua, do you have any message to the victims of sexual harassment and to those who have been harassing and stalking their victims? Just the message for the good and the bad for the people out there.
First thing, I'll encourage all of you out there to check out our Jabatan Pengguna Wanita's website. Download the guidelines that we have put in place. Yeah, and never forget, if it happens to you, act fast. Yeah, say no. Reprimand whoever that's doing that to you. Keep it recorded. Yeah, and share the problems that we face with someone that you know. Yeah, so that if we need to take up the case, you are not just you yourself, but you have told somebody about this.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Chua. There you have it for today's podcast. We have Women, Family and Community Development Ministry Deputy Secretary General, Mr. Chua Choon Hwa, who was speaking about the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act 2022. And I hope those who tune in feel more encouraged. If you're struggling with the same issue, come forward, make a report. Don't be afraid. I'm pretty sure there are a great support system, even from the ministry itself, to support you to go through a difficult moment in your life. But to those who are tuning in, thank you so much for watching, and to those who are listening, thank you so much for taking time. If you want to see the previous episodes, or if you want to rewatch this episode, just go on our YouTube channel, Sinar Daily, and the rest of our social media accounts, Sinar Daily MY, for the latest news updates. I am Antira Minuddin. Thank you so much for tuning in.